This is indeed a disturbing universe.
Hello, greetings, and welcome. Welcome to the Stereo 999 YouTube channel. I am Mr. Gopher. And if you're like me, you're kind of getting sick of Steve and all his BS. So I'm taking over this channel, and I'm going to do some good entertainment instead of this boring talk about records. We're going to talk about nuts and berries and digging tunnels underground and why my eyeballs are red. You know, interesting stuff. Oh man, I'm back, man. Those breakfast burritos. Mr. Gopher, what are you doing in my vortex? There's only enough room in this vortex for one of us. Hey, hello, greetings, welcome, all that. This is the end of October episode of the disturbing universe of records that I've been presenting to you. And you know, I've been getting sentimental this month. This month I've been getting sentimental about Octobers in the past. You know, I spent the last 2 weeks obsessing over October of 2011. And I'm kind of over it. So for this episode, I'm going to obsess about Halloween of 1993. Because in that year of my life, that was one of those insane days that just makes a mark on your psyche. A bunch of crazy stuff happened. On that day. And, you know, a lot of it involved brains thinking they're eggs and going into frying pans, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. One of the things that happened back then in October 1993, I was trying to negotiate a deal in which I would acquire a stack of jazz records that were kind of holy grail, and Halloween was the day that the deal fell through and somebody else got the records. And so I was kind of on a search to find some of these titles for the next year or so. And so it's kind of got me into this thing of like jazz and funk on Halloween. And so I've got a stack of kind of jazzy, funky records that are kind of on the fringe, and fun to listen to during spooky season. May or may not have a theme, but just in my personal vortex, they kind of jive with the mood. And that's what I am going to talk about in this episode. Open the vortex, please, Gopher. Open the vortex, please, Gopher. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm afraid I can't do that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I showed this one last year when I did a Halloween special episode. This is Blues for Dracula by Philly Joe Jones, the great drummer who's played with Miles Davis and Coltrane. And yeah, besides the cover, also on the title track, he is doing a Dracula impression and talking a little bit. I mean, the record is pretty much straight ahead bop besides that, but it's cool. It's a cool record for Halloween. I mean, just look at that. Another one here. This is Skull Session by Oliver Nelson. Again, a lot of it's straight ahead, but the first track is real funky, has some synthesizers and just a nice groove to it, and it's on the Flying Dutchman label. And you know, Oliver Nelson's always good, you know, whether he's playing the horn or doing arrangements. arrangements. Skull Session. Okay, Spellbinder by Gabor Szabo, Hungarian guitarist. And this record is on the Impulse label. And besides the title track, there's also Witchcraft, and he does a cover of Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down, and the original version of Gypsy Queen that you might know from Santana. Okay, this record was part of the initial stack of records that inspired me on this journey, and I did manage to find, this is Sunshine of My Soul by Jackie Byard. Kind of experimental, eclectic piano player. You might have heard him, you know, the Mingus Live in Europe. It's a Prestige album, and it's a three-piece with David Eisenson on bass and Elvin Jones on drums, and it goes into some pretty far out territory. What's interesting is that this record was one of the inspirations of my whole Halloween jazz tip, and the session was actually recorded on October 31st, 1967. This record is a pretty straight ahead bop on a Prestige label. This is a OJC reissue. Really nicely done. Sonny Stitt, Bud Powell, and J.J. Johnson. It's got a great version of Fine and Dandy, and it was recorded around 1949, 1950. Let me direct your attention towards this artwork, towards these kind of disturbed looking flying creatures. You might recognize this style. Mad Magazine's Don Martin. Alright. Sorcery from Sabu Martinez, percussionist. And this was part of the Columbia Records Adventures in Sound. And this is a sought after album. The liner notes are just crazy on this. From the shores of the rivers of the sun come sounds various, beautiful and horrible with life, sounds as old as time, heard when brute creatures trod the earth, sounds that owe nothing to civilization and everything to rank and teeming biology. Anyway, so this record actually came from the same person who I was trying to make that other record deal with. So things worked out. I found good records, no animosity towards anybody involved in this, and this is definitely a good Halloween jazz record, as is Dave Pike, The Doors of Perception, on the Vortex record label, which was a label, I think Herbie Mann set this label up as part of Atlantic. And besides, you know, the vibe stylings of Dave Pike, this record has some really interesting use of effects, of delay and distortion to kind of make it psychedelic, and it is pretty unique. Also Cecil Taylor for Olim. This is a record of solo piano by Cecil Taylor, and if you're familiar with his work, it goes crazy. It is scary and crazy and intense, the music of Cecil Taylor. And this is him on solo piano. It does not disappoint. Another experimenter, Anthony Braxton. This is 5 compositions, quartet, 1986. Plays a bunch of different horns, has a very unique style of composing and playing, It's on the Black Saint label. And here's the interesting thing about Anthony Braxton. These drawings, these little pictograms, those are actually the song titles. So that's what's a diagram of what is happening in the song and what it represents. Okay, Gil Melly, I think I pronounced that right. Gil Melly, Tome 6 on Verve. And you might know Gil Melly from the noisy electronic soundtrack of the movie Andromeda Strain, or the surprisingly funky soundtrack of the movie Starship Invaders. This is a record he made on Verve, where it's pretty much an ensemble doing some free jazz kind of stuff, but then it kind of fades in and out of some electronic interludes. Really interesting. And this is, I guess, the electronic oscillating contraption that we hear on the record. Okay, this is Components by Bobby Hutcherson. And this one side of this record is kind of straight ahead, and the second side of the record is more experimental. The Joe Chambers compositions are more experimental. The reason I'm showing this is just as an example of what a nerd I used to be. There was somebody selling records on a sidewalk, and I was on a bus, and out of the corner of my eye I spotted Blue Note looking graphic design, and I jumped off the bus and ran back to see what record it was, and it was this. And this is the copy I bought. Again in the 90s, when I was really obsessed with this kind of stuff. Okay. Joe Farrell, Moon Germs. This is a really cool kind of fusiony record on the CTI label. Herbie Hancock on piano, Stanley Clarke on bass, Jack DeJohnette on drums. You cannot go wrong there. A trippy cover and some really interesting compositions, especially the first track, Great Gorge, which starts out kind of funky, but then it gets all fast and crazy in the middle. All right. Another great piano player and hard bop pioneer, Horace Silver. And this is on Blue Note. This is a later, like maybe late 60s, early 70s pressing with this label. But yeah, finger poppin'.
Finger pops from Kenner.
This ship goes where I want it to go.
Security, take them both to the brig.
Freeze.
Move over, Marge Simpson. Beavis and Butthead now reign supreme when it comes to popular costumes for Halloween.
Yeah, they're cool.
I don't really like them.
I thought about doing it.
These last-minute shoppers are gobbling up the hottest Halloween costumes this year. Aladdin, Barney the dinosaur, although this must be his cousin Vern, and Presidents Bush and Reagan. This giant Bill Clinton head is certain to send shivers up the spines of even the stiffest Republicans. But if that doesn't do it, the latest technology in latex just may do the trick.
The technology has really changed in latex so that today they can create almost anything. Whether it be real or imagined, it can be reproduced in latex. The second biggest sellers are the very long mask, which is something we're seeing new this year. Instead of just a face mask, it covers the whole chest, and it becomes a costume in itself.
Traditional Halloween costumes, such as ghosts, goblins, witches, Frankensteins, and skeletons, are joined this year by controversial, even tasteless characters, sure to win applause from young teens. While dressing up for Halloween is an American tradition, expect the unexpected this Sunday. You never know if you'll open the door to a trick or a treat.
Every year, Halloween is full of surprises.
Robin Mangren, News 8, Bay Park.
A policeman's hunch pays off.
Let's say 380, crack cocaine.
On the next Cops.
Monday night after the 10 o'clock news.
Married with Children will not be seen tonight, but we'll return next week with an all-new episode at its regularly scheduled time. Now, stay tuned for more of The Simpsons Halloween Scare-a-thon.
Bitches Brew. Bitches Brew. This is a classic. This is a record that most people start with when they really want to get to the outside areas of jazz. This is Bitches Brew singles. This is actually a 12-inch single of a edit of Bitches Brew on one side and Spanish Key on the flip side. Kind of a neat little thing. Okay. These next two I actually bought on Halloween 1993 at a record store at Reckless, which is not there anymore on 8th Street. Somebody that I do not hear anybody talking about in the VC, Eric Kloss. Eric Kloss, blind saxophone player, and this one's been reissued, and it's on Spotify, except they spelled his name wrong. They spelled it Eric with an H, but this is on the Muse label. 1, 2, Free with these guys, Dave Holland, Pat Martino on guitar. But this is a pretty cool record, and kind of standing on the borderline between fusion and free jazz. The first title track takes up the whole first side, and it's a very outward-leaning composition. And then there is this funky version of It's Too Late by Carole King that just kind of falls apart into chaos and then comes back together over the course of about 13 minutes. That has to be heard to be believed. But yeah, this one's out on CD. Another Eric Kloss record I found that day. In the Land of the Giants. This one is on Prestige. See, look, it still has the little Reckless Records number code system here. But he does a very frantic version of Miles Davis' So What? Okay. This was a grail for a while, the Herbie Nichols trio. Herbie Nichols, like Eric Dolphy, one of those guys who just died too soon, and that's why he's not as well remembered. But it's got a trio with Max Roach on drums and either Al McKibben or Teddy Kotick on bass, and just really cool compositions. Like I don't know, how would I describe Herbie Nichols? A Thelonious Monk kind of dissonance, but with a little more of a classical influence. And it was not that prolific. There's like a 3 CD box set that's almost everything he ever did except for one album. But yeah, this is a Crying Song by Hubert Laws, flute player on CTI, Creed Taylor label. And this is a pretty straightforward kind of Fuzak, easy listening record. Couple of interesting things though. He does a version of Listen to the Band by the Monkees, and he also does 2 Pink Floyd songs. He does the Crying Song and also Cymbeline. Okay, Keith Tippett, Dedicated to You, But You Weren't Listening. You might know Keith Tippett from King Crimson, or maybe the band Low Flying Aircraft with Oakland-based guitarist James June. But yeah, this group, they had a big horn section. They had 3 drummers, including Robert Wyatt. It's, again, kind of treading the line between free jazz and fusion, or more accurately, funk, because the last song, Black Horse, gets funky after most of this record is experimentation. This is a nice one. Great cover, too. It's the Headhunters, Survival of the Fittest. And it's the rest of Herbie Hancock's 70s band without Herbie. And it is funky as it gets. If you got it, you get it. Is classic. Amazing guitar solo on that too. Sun Ra, Concert for the Comet Kohoutek. And in the 70s, there was a comet that we saw in the sky, but it was not as dramatic as it was hyped up to be. It was just a little trail, you know, like a chemtrail in space, if you could see it out the window. But Sun Ra, being from Saturn, he's got to represent for the space people, do a special concert. This is on ECM. This is John Abercrombie, Dave Holland, and Jack DeJohnette, Gateway. And I want to steer your attention towards the track Sorcery 1. This gets pretty intense, almost metallic, and way heavier than a non-believer would expect from a jazz record. And Dave Pell Octet. I bought this for the cover. It's a good record. It's on Capitol. But you can see why I would buy something like this. How could you not? Steve Marcus, Tomorrow Never Knows. This is another title on the Vortex label. And it again, just the psychedelic jazz. You don't hear that much about psychedelic jazz, but it was kind of a thing. There's a great 11-minute long version of the Beatles' Tomorrow Never Knows. Also a great cover of 8 Miles High, and Mellow Yellow has kind of a crazy piano solo. And also want to draw your attention to the last song, Half a Heart, because a lot of people think that's where the saxophone riff from Jerry Rafferty's Baker Street was lifted from. But yeah, last but not least, I'm going to just take it back to Miles for the second half with Live Evil. Selim Sivad, which is Miles Davis backwards. Long tracks, experimentation, taking the whole Bitches Brew thing further out. And trippy cover art. Okay then, that's my video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and peace.
Cut. That was good. We can use that.
Save it, please.
Now, back to the Fox Halloween Bash from Universal Studios, Florida.
We want to thank everybody for hanging out all week long. We had a good time. Hope you did too. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Fox and Nestle congratulate Nancy Fredholm, the winner of Bart's Butterfinger contest. Fox's Halloween Bash was sponsored by US Air.